In a world where wealth dictated everything, or at least that's how it seemed for Isabel, one of the city's most arrogant and entitled elites, trust was as rare as a diamond in a coal mine. Isabel's existence revolved around the numbers in her overflowing bank account, the glittering symbols of her success, and the relentless pursuit of luxury. Her mansion, gleaming under the harsh brilliance of the midday sun, stood as a towering monument of her power, dominating the city's skyline, where technology and indulgence reigned supreme. At just 25 years old, Isabel was the very picture of flawless sophistication. Every aspect of her appearance was a deliberate masterpiece. Her cold blue eyes mirrored the ice in her heart, and her elegant posture radiated unapproachable perfection. Draped in a custom-tailored dress, worth more than most people could dream of earning in a year, she looked like she had been sculpted by an artist obsessed with opulence. On her slender wrist glittered a limited-edition gemstone bracelet, a silent proclamation of her philosophy. Time is money, and she had both in spades. With a glass of outrageously expensive aged wine in hand, because even her beverages had to exude status, Isabel watched from her grand bedroom window, her gaze fixed on Clara, her maid, who toiled under the searing sun. Clara moved with a quiet dedication, every rosebush pruned to perfection, every corner of the estate scrubbed spotless. Isabel found Clara's devotion almost amusing, a curiosity she barely understood. Clara was everything Isabel despised yet secretly envied: grounded, hard-working, and, most infuriatingly, at peace with her simple life. Her natural beauty shone with an unassuming grace, even in plain, practical clothes. At 30, Clara's face carried the quiet pride of a life built on hard work. Her hands, rough and calloused, moved with a practiced precision, each motion a testament to years of labor and genuine love for her craft. The sweat that glistened on her brow spoke of a strength Isabel couldn't fathom, one that made her luxurious existence feel like a brittle illusion. Yet beneath Isabel's polished exterior, envy burned, feeding her contempt. As Isabel stood there, a sinister idea began to take shape in her mind. A sly smile curled her lips, revealing the malice hidden behind her polished exterior. Why not invite this country bumpkin to my birthday party? She thought, savoring the idea. It would be amusing to make her the laughingstock of the night. Isabel's birthday party was the event of the year at her family's grand estate, a lavish gathering of the city's wealthiest and most influential young elite. It was a parade of designer clothes, couture gowns, and jewelry that could feed entire villages. Isabel always basked in the spotlight at these events, bragging about her extravagant plans and showcasing her latest acquisitions. Whether it was a superstar she had befriended or a yacht bigger than anyone else's. But this year, Isabel planned something even more spectacular, a cruel prank designed to cement her status at the very top of their elite social hierarchy. Leaving her wine glass on the mahogany vanity, Isabel stepped out of her cool, air-conditioned bedroom and into the sweltering heat of the garden. The heat slapped her in the face, reminding her why she despised being outside. She approached Clara, who, upon seeing Isabel, quickly wiped the sweat from her brow with a delicate handkerchief and greeted her. "Good afternoon, Miss Isabel," Clara said. Isabel greeted Clara with a genuine smile, one so warm and radiant that it made Clara feel uncomfortable. How could someone smile so sincerely when their life was worth so little? "Clara, my dear friend," Isabel began, her voice smoothly blended with a practiced warmth she had perfected over the years. "I've been watching your work, and I must say, I'm very impressed." Clara's eyes lit up with pride at the compliment, and Isabel had to suppress the urge to cringe. "It's so easy to manipulate the simple-minded," she thought. "Thank you, Miss Isabel. I always do my best to keep everything to your liking," Clara replied, her pride evident in her tone. Isabel nodded, pretending to be pleased. "And that is why, Clara, I want to give you something special, a reward for your hard work and dedication." Clara blinked in surprise. In all her years working for the Isabel family, she had never received anything beyond her weekly paycheck and perhaps a small Christmas bonus. "A reward, miss?" she asked, curiosity filling her voice. "Yes," Isabel continued, savoring each word as though she were sipping a fine wine. "As you know, every year I have a birthday party. It's the biggest event of the year, where the wealthiest children from the nation's elite gather. Clara nodded, though it was clear she didn't truly know anything about this event. To her, parties and elite socialites were as distant and unreachable as the moon. "So this year," Isabel declared, "I want you to come with me." She watched as shock and disbelief spread across the maid's face. "Me? To a party?" Clara stammered, clearly overwhelmed by the invitation. "But miss, I don't know anyone there. I wouldn't know what to do or say at a place like that." Isabel held back a laugh. Clara's insecurity was precisely what she wanted. "Don't worry, Clara. You'll be my guest of honor. Think of it as an opportunity to see how the other half lives. Besides, I'm sure everyone will be thrilled to meet the one who takes care of me in my home." Clara glanced at her dirt-stained, work-worn hands and then at her clothes, still marked by the dust and grime of the garden. "You're too kind, Miss Isabel, but I have nothing appropriate to wear to such an event." "Don't worry about that," Isabel replied with a casual wave of her hand. "I'll make sure you have something fitting for the occasion. So, what do you say? Will you accept my invitation?" For a moment there was hesitation, a brief flicker of doubt that told Clara something felt off about this sudden generosity. But the excitement and the chance to experience something so far removed from her daily life quickly outweighed her suspicion. "It would be an honor, Miss Isabel," Clara finally answered, a radiant smile spreading across her wrinkled face. "Thank you for thinking of me." "The pleasure is mine, Clara," Isabel said, placing a hand on Clara's shoulder to seal the deal. "The party is this Saturday, and I'll make sure you get everything you need." As Isabel walked away, leaving Clara suspended between excitement and worry, she finally allowed the malicious laughter she had been holding in to spill out. The game had begun, and she could already taste the sweetness of victory. Back in the cool comfort of her mansion, Isabel headed straight to her private bar, craving a drink to celebrate the beginning of her perfect plan. As she poured herself a glass of wine, her mind raced, replaying every detail of the humiliation she was about to orchestrate. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. After a few seconds, a familiar voice answered on the other end. "Madeline." "I need you to do something for me," Isabel said without bothering with a greeting. "I want you to find a dress for my maid. It has to stand out, and the less appropriate, the better. Make sure it's way too big." There was a moment of silence on the other end, as if Madeline, her personal assistant, was trying to make sense of the strange request. "Of course, Miss Isabel," Madeline finally replied. "Do you have any preferences for color or style?" Isabel smiled to herself. "Surprise me, Madeline. Just make sure it's something that will have everyone staring for all the wrong reasons." She hung up without waiting for a response. Madeline would understand. She always did, which was why she was invaluable to Isabel. She was capable of executing even the most bizarre tasks without asking inconvenient questions. With the plan now set in motion, Isabel allowed herself to imagine how the gala would unfold. She pictured Clara walking in, awkward and out of place, wearing a ridiculous outfit that made her stand out like a sore thumb. She envisioned the confused stares, the stifled laughter, the whispered comments behind champagne glasses, and at the center of it all would be her, Isabel, the mastermind of this cruel comedy. She would be the talk of the town for weeks, maybe even months. "Do you remember when Isabel brought her maid to the party?" they would say, and everyone would laugh, admiring her boldness and cunning cruelty. But there was more at stake than just a mean-spirited prank. For Isabel, this was a statement, a reminder to everyone at the party of who she truly was. Not just a wealthy heiress, but someone capable of manipulating, controlling, and crafting a spectacle at will. As she sipped her wine, Isabel reflected on the path that had led her here. Born into wealth, her parents had climbed to the top of the business world through shrewdness, determination, and a complete lack of ethics. Every step on her parents' way to the top had been marked by decisions that others might call ruthless or immoral, instilling in Isabel the belief that cruelty was necessary for success. She recalled the stories her father had told her, like his first big break at just 26, when he hacked into and stole the idea of a promising startup, presenting it as his own and securing the backing of key investors. The original founder, a bright but naive young man, was never able to prove the theft and ended up working in an electronics store. His dreams shattered. Then there was the hostile takeover of a family business that had thrived for 3 generations. Isabel's father, without a shred of remorse, dismantled the company and sold off its assets, leaving dozens of loyal employees jobless. The father of that family, who had built the business from nothing, had a heart attack upon hearing the news and died shortly after. Each victory, each $1 million accumulated, each headline in the business magazines was another step in building Isabel's father's legacy of greed, convincing her that the more ruthless you were, the more successful you could be. And now, living at the pinnacle of the success her father had built, with more money than she could ever spend in several lifetimes, what was left for her? The thrill of it all had long since faded. The designer goods, the trips abroad, the luxury. They had all become dull, almost tasteless, and most of all, she hated the beautiful face of Clara. That's why she needed this small act of cruelty, this elaborate joke at the expense of a simple, kind girl like Clara. It was a reminder to herself and everyone around her that she could still cause a stir, create chaos, simply for the fun of it. As these thoughts swirled in her mind, Isabel moved back to the window. The sun was setting, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. In the garden, Clara continued working, completely unaware of the fate Isabel had planned for her. For a brief moment, something like hesitation flickered in Isabel's mind. Was all of this really necessary? What would she truly gain from humiliating someone who had always been kind and hardworking? But the feeling vanished as quickly as it had come. "I hate people more beautiful than me," she whispered, her face hardening with a dangerous resolve. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity at Isabel's mansion. Madeline, true to her reputation for efficiency, had found the perfect outfit for Clara. A garish green dress 2 sizes too big, with an absurdly puffed-out skirt. It was an outfit straight out of a bad stage performance, completely out of place at a glamorous party of elite socialites. When Madeline presented the dress to Isabel, she couldn't help but laugh with satisfaction. "Great job," she said, inspecting the outfit with cruel delight. "This is exactly what I had in mind." The night of the party arrived, a night of light and glamour that seemed to illuminate the entire city. The hotel where the party was being held was a magnificent building perched on cliffs overlooking the ocean, transformed into an oasis of luxury and exclusivity. The entrance was adorned with massive floral arrangements and a red carpet that stretched on endlessly, guarded by security staff in black suits and earpieces, standing still as statues. Luxury cars and limited edition sports cars glided past the Grand Hotel, each one more impressive than the last, in an endless parade of famous faces and friends of Isabel's parents, followed by the children of high-powered executives arriving one after the other. Inside her Rolls-Royce, Isabel adjusted the bow on her dress, an expectant smile playing on her lips. Next to her, Clara sat, clearly uncomfortable and out of place, squeezed into the garish green dress Madeline had found. "Remember, Clara," Isabel said with fake sweetness, "tonight, you're my special guest. Don't worry if you don't understand everything that's said. Just smile and nod." Clara, her sweaty hands clenched on her knees, nodded nervously. "Thank you again for this opportunity," she said, her voice small and sincere. "Miss Isabel, I promise I won't let you down," Clara said earnestly. Isabel had to suppress a giggle. Clara didn't realize that the only way to not disappoint her was to become the joke of the night. The Rolls-Royce pulled up to the entrance, and a valet swiftly opened the door. Isabel stepped out first, greeting the photographers with a practiced smile as flashes immediately went off. With a dramatic flair, she extended her hand to help Clara out of the car. The moment Clara stepped out was exactly as Isabel had envisioned. For a split second, the camera flashes paused, as if the photographers couldn't believe what they were seeing. Then, with renewed enthusiasm, the cameras began clicking furiously. Clara, blinded by the lights and overwhelmed by the sudden attention, stumbled slightly as she exited the car. Isabel held her hand, a gesture that appeared supportive to onlookers but was, in reality, meant to further expose Clara to the cameras. "Miss Isabel, who's your companion?" a reporter shouted. Isabel smiled, savoring the moment. "This is Clara, my maid," she announced. "I thought it would be fun to bring someone who really knows how to make things grow. Don't you all agree?" Giggles and stifled laughter rippled through the crowd. Clara, not understanding the true meaning behind Isabel's words, smiled awkwardly at the cameras. As they walked the red carpet, Isabel could feel the curious stares and amused glances following them. The celebrities, socialites, and elite figures observed with a mix of confusion and obvious entertainment. Inside the hotel's grand lobby, the contrast between Clara's world and the luxury around her became even more pronounced. Crystal chandeliers cast a golden glow over guests holding glasses of champagne. The wealthy attendees were adorned in designer gowns worth more than Clara's entire house, while the young heirs seemed to be in competition over who wore the most expensive watch or drove the flashiest car. Clara paused, clearly overwhelmed. "Miss Isabel," she whispered, "I'm not sure I belong here." Isabel suppressed a victorious smile. "Nonsense, Clara. You're my guest. Let me introduce you to some friends." With a hand on Clara's back, Isabel guided her toward a table where her parents sat with a group of high-powered executives. Near the bar, Isabel noticed James, the CEO of a promising startup, and Frank, a venture capitalist known for his sharp tongue. "Isabel," James called out, raising his glass. "We thought you were going to miss the party and all this fun." "Never," Isabel replied before turning to Clara. "Allow me to introduce my companion for the evening. This is Clara, my maid." The silence that followed was almost palpable. "Your maid?" Frank repeated, his tone a mix of disbelief and amusement. "Yes," Isabel confirmed, relishing every second. "I thought it would be refreshing to bring someone truly interesting, if you know what I mean." The polite laughter that followed was forced and uncomfortable. Clara, sensing she was the center of a joke she didn't fully grasp, smiled nervously. "Tell me, Clara," James said, clearly playing along with Isabel's joke, "what do you think of colonizing Mars?" Clara blinked, caught off guard. I don't know much about that, sir," she stammered, "but I suppose if they're going to colonize Mars—" They had all become dull. Almost every conversation, every glance, every stifled laugh reminded her that she was an outsider, a walking joke. As Clara dried her face with a towel softer than anything she had ever touched in her life, she considered her options. She could simply leave, catch a taxi, and retreat to the familiar comfort of her small home. But something inside her resisted the idea. She had promised Isabel she would attend the party, and Clara was a woman of her word, no matter the circumstances. With a deep sigh, she straightened up, adjusted the bow tie on her dress as best she could, and braced herself to face the rest of the evening with dignity. While Clara wrestled with her insecurities in the restroom, Isabel was in her element. Surrounded by the powerful and famous friends she adored, she commanded conversations with the poise of someone well-practiced in social finesse, every word, gesture, and smile calculated for maximum effect. "Isabel," a voice called from behind her, "I must say your choice of a companion tonight is quite interesting." Isabel turned to see Richard, her father's biggest rival in the tech world. Richard was everything her parents despised: intelligent, charming, and worst of all, genuinely beloved by his employees and colleagues. "Uncle Richard," Isabel replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "always a pleasure to see you. What can I say? I enjoy surprising people." Richard looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Is that what you're doing? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're humiliating a girl who clearly doesn't understand why she's here." Isabel's smile wavered for a moment. "Don't be dramatic, Uncle Richard. I'm simply showing Clara a world she would never see without me. Isn't that generous?" "Generous?" Richard repeated, his voice laced with skepticism. "Is that what you call it? Because to me this looks like an exercise in unnecessary cruelty." Before Isabel could respond, a murmur rippled across the room. All eyes turned toward the main entrance to the ballroom, where an imposing figure had just arrived. He was a tall man, around 75 years old, with silver-streaked hair slicked back and an air of undeniable authority. His suit was perfectly tailored, understated, yet exuding wealth with every stitch. But the most striking feature was his face, sharp eyes that seemed to pierce through every lie, and a smile that blended kindness and shrewdness seamlessly. Isabel felt her mouth go dry. She knew who the man was. Everyone in the country did. It was Jonathan, the legendary investor and philanthropist who had made and broken more fortunes in the tech industry than anyone else. He was the one man even the industry's giants revered, and he was heading straight toward them. Richard, my boy, Jonathan greeted, his voice friendly yet commanding. It's good to see you again. How's that clean energy project you told me about coming along? Richard, clearly delighted to have Jonathan's attention, launched into an enthusiastic explanation of the latest advancements in solar technology. Isabel, feeling momentarily sidelined, prepared to interject, but then she noticed Jonathan's gaze shift toward her. And you must be Isabel, Jonathan said, extending his hand. I've heard a lot about you. Isabel shook his hand, desperately trying to hide her nerves behind a confident smile. Mr. Jonathan, it's an honor. I hope everything you've heard is positive. Jonathan smiled, but there was something in his eyes. To not miss the next stories, subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Let's continue the story. The attention Isabel felt from the crowd made her feel as though she were being scrutinized under a microscope. Oh, I've heard all sorts of things. You're certainly a remarkable figure, Isabel, Jonathan said, his voice smooth yet condescending. There's no denying that. Although I must say, your choice of companion tonight is quite notable. At that exact moment, as if summoned by Jonathan's words, Clara emerged from the crowd. Her face, still slightly flushed as if recently washed, held a new look of determination, as though she had made a difficult choice. The moment Isabel had anticipated all night had finally arrived. With Clara now in the ballroom and Jonathan observing with interest, the stage was set for the grand finale of Isabel's carefully orchestrated humiliation. Mr. Jonathan, Isabel said, a smile playing on her lips that barely hid her underlying malice. Allow me to introduce my special guest for the evening. This is Clara, my maid. The room fell into a silence so complete that even the background music seemed to fade, as if the entire world was holding its breath. Jonathan's eyes moved to Clara, his expression unreadable. Clara, standing as tall as she could in her ill-fitting dress, faced the curious and judgmental gazes of the elite crowd, as well as the infamous investor Jonathan, a family friend of Isabel's parents. Despite her anxiety, Clara stood with surprising determination. Then something unexpected happened. Jonathan smiled. It wasn't the sarcastic, mocking smile Isabel had been counting on, but a warm and genuine one that reached his eyes. Clara, Jonathan said, extending his hand graciously, it is an honor to finally meet you. Confusion spread across Isabel's face, an ink stain of disbelief marring her carefully composed features. What did he mean by that? Clara, equally astonished, took his hand, her voice stronger and steadier than it had been all evening. The honor's mine, Mr. Jonathan, she replied. As if Jonathan's words had triggered a signal, something extraordinary began to unfold. Guests around the room began to rise, first a few at a time, then in larger groups, until the entire ballroom was standing. Applause filled the air, starting soft but quickly building into an overwhelming roar. Clara looked around, stunned, trying to make sense of the scene unfolding before her. That's her, someone in the crowd shouted. The unknown angel. I can't believe it. She's a legend. Whispers spread like wildfire. The unknown angel? Is she really here? I can't believe it. Isabel turned to Clara, her face a twisted mix of confusion and rising dread. What are they talking about? What is this? She demanded, her voice cracking. But Clara was no longer focused on Isabel. Her gaze had shifted to Jonathan, who gave her a slight nod, as if granting her permission to speak. Clara took a deep breath and for the first time that night stood completely tall. Suddenly, her ill-fitting dress no longer seemed important. There was a newfound dignity in her stance and strength in her eyes that Isabel had never noticed. I think it's time for the truth to be revealed, Clara announced, her voice clear and unwavering. Yes, I am the unknown angel. The revelation struck the room like a clap of thunder. Isabel felt the ground shift beneath her feet, disbelief washing over her. The unknown angel, the mysterious philanthropist who had secretly donated millions to charity, the subject of endless speculation in high society, was standing right before her. But you're a maid, Isabel stammered, unable to reconcile the truth with everything she thought she knew. The humble image of Clara carried the legend of the unknown angel. Clara smiled, a smile full of years of secrets and satisfaction. Yes, I am a maid, and I'm proud of it, she replied. Then Jonathan stepped forward onto the stage, taking hold of the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, a few years ago, Clara was one of the top young entrepreneurs in our country, named among the top 5. However, for reasons unknown, she chose to step away from that life and live simply, doing what she loves. Jonathan moved closer to Clara, placing a hand on her shoulder. I've had the privilege of working with Clara on many charitable projects over the years. Her generosity and humility are truly inspiring. Isabel felt her world spinning. Her plan, her cruel joke, had crumbled in an instant. Worse still, she had become the laughingstock, the villain of the story. The guests began flocking to Clara, eager to meet the legendary unknown angel. Executives, celebrities, and philanthropists who had looked at Clara with disdain only hours earlier were now vying for her attention. Ms. Marion, a famous actress, said, "Your donation saved the Arts Center in my hometown. I cannot thank you enough." Another renowned tech entrepreneur added, "The funds you provided for clean energy research are game-changing. It's an honor to finally meet you." As the compliments and gratitude continued, Isabel found herself retreating, shrinking away from the spotlight. Her mind raced, trying to process what was happening. How could she have been so wrong? How could she not have known? Clara, for her part, accepted the thanks with grace and humility. "The real honor is in helping," she said repeatedly. "Each of us has the power to make a difference, no matter our place in life." At one point, Clara turned to Isabel, who had withdrawn into a corner of the room. With steady steps, she approached her once proud employer, who now seemed small in the face of the revelation. "Isabel," Clara said, her voice gentle but firm, "I suppose you're wondering why I agreed to come tonight, knowing your intentions." Isabel, unable to meet Clara's gaze, looked down at the floor. I don't understand," she stammered. "Why work as a maid if you have so much money? Why put up with all of this?" She gestured vaguely to the party, and more broadly, to the way she had treated her. Clara smiled, a smile filled with empathy and sadness. "Because honest work, Isabel, no matter what it is, has dignity. Because caring for you and your home, seeing things improve every day, keeps me grounded in what truly matters. And because sometimes the most important lessons come from the most unexpected places." Isabel felt something crack inside her. Her whole life, her entire upbringing, her parents had taught her that money and power were all that mattered. And now here was Clara, a woman with more wealth than Isabel could ever dream of, choosing to live a simple life and quietly do good. I'm sorry," Isabel mumbled, the words difficult to get out. "I didn't mean to. Clara placed a hand on Isabel's shoulder, a gesture of understanding that Isabel felt she didn't deserve. "I know, Isabel," Clara said gently, "and while I can't condone your actions tonight, I think there's a lesson here for all of us." She turned to address the crowd around them, her voice rising so everyone could hear. "Tonight reminds us that we should not judge people by appearances or their profession. True wealth is not measured in dollars, but in the positive impact we can make in the lives of others." A murmur of agreement spread through the room. Isabel could see the eyes that had once admired her now turning cold or filled with pity. She had fallen from her pedestal, and the fall was steep. Jonathan stepped closer, his presence always commanding. "Isabel," he said, his voice a mix of disappointment and a sliver of hope, "you made a grave mistake tonight, but as Clara pointed out, there is always room for growth and redemption." Isabel nodded, feeling smaller than she ever had before. "We cannot change the past, Isabel, but we can plant the seeds for a better future," Jonathan continued, "and you don't have to do it alone. There is a community here willing to help guide and work with your family on projects that truly matter." Isabel looked at him, feeling a mixture of humility and hope she had never experienced before. I want that," she whispered, "to learn, to help, to do things differently." Clara smiled brightly. "So, what do you say? If we start tomorrow morning at your house as I suggested, there's something truly therapeutic about cleaning and seeing your efforts quite literally." I would love that, Clara," Isabel replied, a newfound determination in her voice. "I think I have a lot to learn from you, from everyone." As they spoke, Clara made her way to the balcony. Her presence, once overlooked or mocked, now radiated quiet authority. "Ladies and gentlemen," Clara said with a gentle smile, "I hope I'm not intruding." "Not at all," Richard replied, making room for her to join them. Isabel, still grappling with her shame, could hardly meet Clara's eyes. "Clara, I don't know what to say," she murmured. Clara placed her hand on Isabel's shoulder again, the same gesture of understanding. "Sometimes, Isabel, there's no need to say anything. What matters is what we do from here on out." The group stood in silence for a moment, gazing out at the starry sky. As the gala ended, the guests left with a new perspective. The story of the unknown angel, the millionaire maid who had quietly helped others throughout her career, would spread like wildfire, inspiring many to reconsider their priorities and the true meaning of success. Isabel, who had once planned her birthday party with the intention of humiliating her beautiful maid, left with a lesson in humility and a newfound purpose in life. That night, Isabel sat down with her parents, and they talked for hours. Her parents, filled with regret for having raised her with such negative values, expressed their remorse. Together, they vowed to change, to strive to help the community rather than merely satisfy their own selfish ambitions. The next morning, as promised, Isabel showed up ready to work alongside Clara. As they cleaned the house, Isabel understood that they weren't just caring for a home. They were refreshing their lives and embracing transformation. Along with it came the promise of change for their entire community. The story of the wealthy heiress and her maid would become a legend in the country. A reminder that true wealth is not measured in dollars, but in the positive impact we can have on the lives of others. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more video. Thank you!